Some of DC's most important comic characters were never supposed to exist in comics at all. They started as animated experiments, one-off cartoon editions, or background ideas created only for television, but audiences connected with them so strongly that DC had no choice but to bring them into official canon. Once they crossed over, many didn't just survive, they permanently changed major heroes, villains, and entire mythologies. These characters went from cartoon concepts to essential parts of DC history. But which animated creations made the biggest leap into comic canon? Here are 10 DC characters created for cartoons that became comic canon. At number 10 is Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn didn't debut on paper. She actually premiered on a television screen in the 1992 Batman, the animated series episode Joker's Favor. Created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, she was intended to be a one-off disposable henchwoman meant only to jump out of a cake. However, Arlene Sorkin's legendary vocal performance and Harley's chaotic charm completely hijacked the show. On television, her immediate popularity turned her into an overnight breakout star. The demand was so intense that DC officially dragged her out of the television set and into mainline comic canon in 1999's Batman, Harley Quinn number 1 by Dini and Evil Guichet. To make this cartoon character work on paper, DC editors had to completely alter existing comic mythology, grounding her origin as Dr. Harleen Quinzel and permanently rewriting the Joker's entire operational history. Today, she isn't just a cartoon gimmick anymore. She is arguably the fourth pillar of DC Comics, an indispensable pillar of modern DC history. At number 9 is Mercy Graves. Mercy Graves did not debut on paper. She premiered on a television screen in the 1996 Superman, the animated series episode A Little Piece of Home. Created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, she was a stoic bodyguard meant to give the cerebral Lex Luthor a physical threat presence. However, her sheer physical dominance and mysterious loyalty to a megalomaniac fascinated fans. On television, her immediate popularity turned her into an overnight breakout star. The demand was so intense that DC officially dragged her out of the television set and into mainline comic canon during the No Man's Land event in 1999 inside Detective Comics number 735, migrated by Greg Rucka and Dan Jurgens. To make this cartoon character work on paper, DC editors had to completely alter existing comic mythology, retroactively weaving her into Luthor's past and teasing a mysterious, unconfirmed Amazonian heritage. Today, she is not just a cartoon gimmick anymore, she is an indispensable pillar of modern DC history. At number 8 is Nora Freeze. Nora Freeze bypassed the traditional printing press entirely, making her initial debut as a tragically ill, cryogenically frozen wife during the 1992 Batman, the animated series episode Heart of Ice. Created by Paul Dini, she was initially designed as a literal frozen plot device to provide a campy C-list adversary with a heartbreaking motivation. However, the profound emotional gravity of her existence won a Daytime Emmy and fundamentally redefined the Dark Knight's Rogues Gallery. As a television phenomenon, her immediate resonance transformed her into a massive fan obsession. The hunger for her story was so fierce that editors officially introduced her to the core print universe in 1997's Batman Mr. Freeze #1, handled by Dini and Mark Buckingham. Integrating her required a tonal shift for the publisher, permanently elevating Victor from a gimmick-driven rogue into a tragic figure, ensuring Nora's cryostasis became absolute permanent canon. Transcending the victim trope to become Lazara and eventually Mrs. Freeze, she remains a vital anchor of contemporary mythology. And somehow, these animated creations only get more influential from here. Coming up, we have an electricity-wielding shock jock, a controversial alien duo, a masked anti-hero whose identity broke the fandom, and a vigilante who seized control of Blackgate. At number 7 is Leslie Willis. Leslie Willis, an abrasive shock jock turned electricity manipulator, bypassed the comic medium entirely by first appearing in the 1997 Superman, the animated series episode Livewire. Conceived by Evan Dorkin, Sarah Dyer, and Bruce Timm, she was injected into the franchise to modernize the Man of Steel's foes with sharp media satire and rebellious 90s attitude. Her distinct visual flair, unapologetic loudmouth, and unique capacity to verbally outmaneuver the usually stoic hero made her incredibly magnetic to audiences. This undeniable viewer fascination practically forced the publisher to integrate her into their official continuity, which finally happened in 2006's Action Comics number 835 under the guidance of Gail Simone and John Byrne. Bringing her to the printed page required an origin shift. Writers established her as a natural-born metahuman whose electrical powers were fully ignited by a lightning strike, turning her into an explosive physical threat. She remains a persistent menace to Metropolis and Gotham, embodying the ultimate technological adversary. At number 6 is the Wonder Twins. Zan and Jaina, the morphing alien duo known as the Wonder Twins, did not originate in a printed comic. Instead, they first beamed into living rooms during the 1977 broadcast of the all-new Super Friends Hour. Conceptualized by Norman Maurer alongside William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, they were initially drafted as cheerful audience surrogates interacting with younger viewers alongside their monkey Gleek. Soon, their iconic activation catchphrase became permanently embedded within global pop culture, elevating them into legendary status. The immense cultural footprint left the publisher no choice but to forcefully insert them into the primary universe, materializing in the pages of Extreme Justice Issue 9, orchestrated by Ivan Velez Jr. and Al Rio. Integrating these lighthearted heroes demanded a severe tonal shift. Writers completely gutted their campy television past, reimagining the siblings as Exorian refugees attempting to find their place on Earth, shedding their cartoonish innocence for a grounded comic reality. Today, they stand tall as nuanced interstellar refugees rather than retro memes. At number 5 is Red X. Red X, an anti-hero wielding highly unstable xenothium technology, bypassed the comic page entirely to premiere on television during the 2003 Teen Titans animated series episode Masks. Created by Glenn Murakami and David Slack, this identity was initially just Dick Grayson in disguise, but the suit was subsequently stolen by an unknown thief to act as a direct foil to Robin. The enduring, unresolved mystery of who was operating under the stolen mask drove the fandom crazy, cementing the Rogue as a massive breakout sensation. The relentless demand to see this character interact with the core universe culminated in a 2021 Canon debut within Teen Titans Academy No. 1, spearheaded by Tim Sheridan and Rafa Sandoval. To make this narrative function on paper, DC was forced to retroactively stitch the dangerous armor into Nightwing's past so the mantle could terrorize modern rosters. Ultimately, this lethal combatant evolved from a clever cartoon gimmick into a permanent driving force of contemporary superhero events. At number 4 is Lockup/Lyle Bolton. Lyle Bolton, the heavily militarized vigilante jailer known as Lockup, first materialized in the 1994 Batman, the animated series episode bearing his alias. Conceived by Paul Dini, Marty Eisenberg, and Robert N. Skir, this antagonist was originally engineered to act as a dark mirror to the Caped Crusader, highlighting the inherent flaws within Gotham's endless legal justice cycle. By instilling more fear in the criminal underworld than the Dark Knight himself, this compelling psychological dynamic captivated audiences instantly. The fervent fan response compelled the publisher to pull him into core continuity, marking his official print arrival in the 1996 issue Robin 24 by Chuck Dixon and Aaron Lopresti. Adapting his narrative for the page required structural integration into the city's penal institutions, radically shifting the operational hierarchy of Blackgate Penitentiary. Cementing his status as the ultimate radicalized warden, he famously seized absolute command over Blackgate during the massive No Man's Land crossover event without any hesitation. But now we're entering the top 3, featuring twin speedsters, an absolute joke of a villain, and a massive juggernaut who permanently changed DC mythology itself. At number 3 is Mazi Menos. The Spanish-speaking twin speedsters bypassed traditional print to debut on screen during the 2005 Titans East Part 1 episode of the beloved 2003 Teen Titans animated series. Created by Sam Register and Glenn Murakami, the young brothers were originally envisioned as lively comic relief burdened by a fascinating physical limitation. They could only access their incredible velocity while physically touching one another. This unique handicap, paired with infectious enthusiasm, resonated deeply with viewers, instantly catapulting them to breakout stardom. Recognizing this surging television popularity, the publisher transported the energetic siblings into official mainline continuity through 2006 Teen Titans issue 38, smoothly orchestrated by Jeff Johns and Carlos Ferreira. Accommodating their arrival integrated them smoothly into the post-Infinite Crisis timeline. Writers carried over their unique shared biology, requiring physical contact to access their speed, making them a fascinating, self-contained anomaly within the DC universe. Today, they proudly symbolize the global expansion of the vast Titans superhero network. At number 2 is Condiment King. Mitchell Mayo, the villain who shoots ketchup and mustard, known as Condiment King, first premiered on television during the 1994 Batman animated series episode Make 'em Laugh. Created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, he was conceived as a literal meta-joke to parody the campy Adam West era. However, the sheer absurdity of aggressively wielding hot sauce within a gothic noir cartoon was undeniably hilarious, turning him into a massive breakout star. The demand was so intense that editors officially dragged him into mainline comic canon during 2003, appearing inside Batgirl Year 1 Issue 8 by Chuck Dixon, Scott Beatty, and Marcos Martin. To make this gimmick work on paper, they altered the existing mythology, separating him entirely from the Joker's mind control seen in the cartoon. Instead, they established Mitchell Mayo as an eccentric villain acting on his own free will, permanently injecting dark comedy into the realistic Bat mythos. Today, he remains the ultimate recurring joke, continually arriving just to get punched as an indispensable pillar of modern DC comic book history. At number 1 is Cinderblock. Cinderblock, a hulking, near-mute concrete monstrosity, never debuted on paper, but instead premiered during the beloved 2003 animated Teen Titans television series episode titled Divide and Conquer. Created by Glenn Murakami and David Slack, this silent juggernaut was originally born entirely out of strict network censorship needs. The young heroes desperately needed a highly durable enemy they could punch with absolute, devastating force without ever showing any blood on screen. His massive visual design and function as an unstoppable bruiser made him a memorable first boss-level threat, immediately turning him into an overnight breakout star. Fan demand was so incredibly intense that publishers dragged him into mainline canon through Titans issue 17, handled by writers J.T. Krull and Angel Unzueta. To make him work on paper, editors maintained his terrifying, mute physiology as a hulking creature made of literal concrete, acting as a devastating physical threat against the Titans in San Francisco. Today, he remains an indispensable pillar of modern DC history. These characters outgrew their cartoons completely. Comment your favorite, subscribe now, and stay tuned for more comic deep dives.